The night was quiet, and the forest was dark. The only sound was the soft rustle of leaves in the cold wind. A young human man named Daniel walked along a narrow path, carrying a small lantern in his hand. He often came here to hunt or to gather firewood, but tonight felt different. The air was heavy, almost alive, as if the forest was holding its breath. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath his feet. A flash of light cut through the night sky, bright and blinding, as something fell from above. The light streaked across the stars like a burning comet before crashing deep into the forest with a roar. Daniel's heart pounded. He could have turned back, but curiosity pulled him forward. He tightened his grip on the lantern and ran toward the smoke. Through the thick trees, he saw broken branches and scorched earth. A small alien craft lay in ruins, its silver body torn and glowing faintly with strange energy. Sparks jumped from the shattered panels, and strange blue smoke curled upward. Daniel's eyes widened. He had heard tales of lights in the sky, but never had he seen proof. He moved closer, carefully stepping over twisted metal. Then he heard it, a faint cry, soft and weak, like the voice of someone in pain. His chest tightened, and he followed the sound. Inside the wreckage, he found her. A girl, no, not human, was lying among the wreckage. Her skin was smooth and pale lavender, glowing softly in the dim light. Long silver-purple hair spilled across her face, and her eyes, though half closed, glimmered with faint violet light. She wore a torn suit of golden armor that looked both regal and fragile. She was clearly no ordinary being. Daniel froze. His instincts told him to run. This was dangerous. She was not from his world. But then, she moaned again, her body trembling with weakness. His fear slowly faded into something else, compassion. Whoever she was hurt, alone, and in desperate need of help. He knelt beside her. "Can you hear me?" he whispered. Her eyes opened slightly, locking onto his. There was fear in them, but also hope. She tried to speak, but only a broken sound escaped her lips. Daniel looked around quickly. There was no time to waste. He lifted her carefully in his arms. She was lighter than he expected, as if her body was made of something more delicate than human flesh. Carrying her away from the burning wreck, he hurried through the forest toward his small cabin. Every step was heavy, not because of her weight, but because of the danger. What if someone had seen the crash? What if others came looking for her? He did not know, but he could not abandon her. Back at his cabin, Daniel laid her gently on his bed. The lantern light revealed more of her beauty. Her pointed ears marked her as something beyond human. A faint glow pulsed from the jewel at her chest plate, as if it were keeping her alive. Daniel fetched water and tried to clean her wounds. Her strange skin healed slowly, but it healed. When he gave her water, she drank carefully, her eyes never leaving his. For hours, he stayed awake, watching her breathe, listening to the strange hum that came from her body. He felt as if he was standing on the edge of something greater than himself. He did not know who she was, but he knew one thing. He could not let her die here. At dawn, the princess stirred. Her voice was soft, melodic, though her words were in a language Daniel did not understand. Still, he knew she was thanking him. She touched his hand gently, her eyes glowing brighter now with life. Daniel smiled awkwardly. "You're safe here," he said, though he doubted she understood. Yet somehow she did. A strange bond formed between them in that moment, one of trust and gratitude, across the barrier of language and worlds. For the next few days, Daniel kept her hidden. He brought her food, though she only ate little. She grew stronger each day, her wounds closing, her light returning. Sometimes she would look out the window at the sky, sadness in her eyes, as if longing for home. One evening, she finally spoke a word he understood. "Princess." She pointed to herself, then to the sky. Daniel realized the truth. She was not just an alien, she was royalty. A princess lost on a distant world, far from her people. Soon, others began to search for her. Strange shadows passed in the night, and Daniel knew he could not keep her here much longer. Then, one night, a ship arrived, sleek and shining, with lights that cut through the darkness. She looked at him with tears in her glowing eyes, touched his face gently, and whispered something he could not understand but felt deep in his heart. As the ship carried her away, Daniel stood in silence, staring at the stars. He did not know if he would ever see her again. All he knew was that in one night, his life had changed forever. He had saved a lost princess, and in doing so, had written the first lines of a story that was far from over. Years passed, but Daniel never forgot that night. The memory of the strange crash in the forest, the lavender-skinned princess with glowing eyes, and the bond they shared haunted him in both dreams and waking thoughts. Sometimes, he wondered if it had all been a dream. Yet the scars on his arms from the wreckage reminded him it was real. Daniel's life returned to quiet simplicity. He worked in the small village, helped neighbors, and lived in his wooden cabin by the forest. People in town whisper about him sometimes, calling him a loner or a man with strange eyes. They never knew the truth, that he once carried a princess from another world in his arms. On clear nights, Daniel would sit outside, staring at the stars. He often searched for the same violet glow he had seen in her eyes. Sometimes he swore he saw patterns in the constellations shift, as if someone was watching from far away. The silence of those years felt heavy. The bond they shared had been brief, but strong enough to leave a hole in his heart. Still, Daniel did not speak of it to anyone. Who would believe him? Even he sometimes doubted. Yet deep inside, he carried the memory of her touch, the way her fingers had pressed against his hand, as if to say, "Don't forget me." But the world around him was changing. Strange rumors spread across villages and towns. Farmers spoke of odd lights moving silently across the sky. Hunters claimed they had found burnt patches of land with no sign of fire. Children whispered of shadows in the woods that vanished when chased. Daniel listened quietly, never joining in, but his heart tightened with unease. One evening, as the sun sank low and painted the horizon in shades of gold and red, Daniel stood by the forest edge. A cold wind brushed through the trees. The silence of the woods felt alive again, just as it had the night she crashed. He shivered. Something was different tonight. That night, he dreamed of her. In his dream, she stood in a palace of shining crystal, her eyes brighter than ever, but filled with sorrow. She reached out to him, whispering words he could not understand. Then the palace cracked apart, breaking into shadows. He woke up with sweat on his face and his heart racing. The following days only deepened his unease. Cattle went missing in nearby farms. Travelers spoke of tall, cloaked figures seen on the roads at night. Once, while chopping wood, Daniel felt a presence behind him. He turned quickly, but there was nothing, only the whisper of wind. Still, he felt eyes on him. At night, he began to notice faint glimmers above his cabin. Stars that seemed too bright, too deliberate. They blinked in patterns, almost like signals. The same violet hue he remembered from her jewel, from her eyes, now appeared faintly in the sky. Was she watching him, or was someone else searching? The questions tormented him. He longed to see her again, but fear mixed with that hope. If she returned, would it be for him, or would danger follow in her shadow? One evening, as Daniel returned from the village, he found a strange mark carved into the door of his cabin, a symbol glowing faintly in the dark. He froze, recognizing the same delicate lines he had seen etched into her armor years ago. His hands trembled as he traced it with his finger. It pulsed softly before fading into nothing. That night, he did not sleep. He sat by the fire, staring into the flames, waiting for something, anything. His lantern flickered, and for a brief moment, the shadows on the wall shaped themselves into her form, tall, graceful, with long silver-purple hair. When he blinked, it was gone. The years of silence were breaking. The world was stirring again. And Daniel realized that whatever bond he had shared with the lost princess, it was not finished. Fate was moving once more, pulling him into a story far greater than he had ever imagined. The forest, the stars, and the strange dreams all whispered the same truth. She was coming back. The sky was clear that night, filled with countless stars. Daniel sat outside his cabin, as he often did, staring upward. For years, the silence of the heavens had mocked him, reminding him of the princess he had once saved and lost. But tonight, the stars looked different. They seemed alive, shifting, glowing, and drawing his attention to a single point above the forest. Then, without warning, the silence broke. A deep hum filled the air, low at first, then rising, vibrating through the ground. The trees trembled, animals fled, and Daniel's lantern flickered wildly. He rose to his feet, his heart racing. From above, a light appeared. It was not like the falling comet of years ago. This light was controlled, steady, and terrifying in its size. A massive vessel descended from the stars, its surface gleaming like silver glass, covered in shifting runes that pulsed with violet energy. The air grew heavy, and the night lit up as if a second sun had arrived. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. The ship landed in the clearing beyond the forest, sending shock waves through the earth. Dust and leaves whirled into the sky as the vessel settled with a hiss of steam. For a long moment, there was silence again, broken only by Daniel's pounding heartbeat. The side of the ship opened, light spilling out like liquid gold. A figure appeared in the doorway, stepping down the ramp slowly, with grace that seemed almost unreal. It was her, the princess. She was no longer the fragile, wounded girl he had once carried through the forest. She was radiant now, tall and commanding, her silver-purple hair flowing like starlight. Her lavender skin glowed softly under the alien lights, and her eyes burned brighter than he remembered, violet flames full of power and memory. She wore regal armor, polished and unbroken, glowing with delicate lines of energy. A crown-like band rested against her brow, marking her as someone of immense importance. Daniel could not move. For years he had dreamed of this moment, but dreams had never captured the truth. She was beautiful beyond words, yet also powerful, untouchable, like a being carved from light itself. When her eyes found his, the distance between years vanished. For a heartbeat, it was as if the forest, the crash, the pain, and the silence had all never happened. She smiled, softly, warmly, but with tears glimmering at the corners of her eyes. "Daniel," she whispered. His name, perfect, clear, spoken in his own tongue. The sound froze him where he stood. She remembered. Slowly, she walked toward him, her steps light, almost floating across the ground. Behind her, alien guards in silver-black armor stood silently, their faces hidden, their bodies unmoving like statues. They did not follow her down. She came alone, crossing the clearing until she stood only a few feet away from him. Daniel swallowed hard. His voice cracked when he spoke. "You came back." Her eyes softened. "I never forgot." The words carried the weight of years, of promises kept across the stars. Then, she lifted her hands. Between them, something shimmered. A small object, glowing with energy, pulsed softly like a living heart. It was not metal, not stone, but something both, woven with light, humming with power. "This," she said, her voice trembling with emotion, "is for you, for what you gave me when I had nothing. A gift, one that belongs not just to you, but to your people." Daniel stared at it, all filling his chest. The glow reflected in his eyes, warming his skin. He could feel the hum of it in the air, powerful and alive. Whatever it was not of this earth. But more than the object, it was her presence that struck him. The bond they once shared had not faded. It had grown, stretched across time and space, and now returned stronger than ever. She reached forward, placing the glowing gift in his hands. For a moment, their fingers touched, and the same electric spark he had felt years ago rushed through him. His chest tightened, his breath caught, and he understood. This was not the end. This was the beginning. The forest was silent once more, but not with emptiness. It was silent in awe, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Daniel looked down at the gift, then up at the princess who had returned to him. Her violet eyes burned brighter, full of secrets yet to be revealed. And deep inside, Daniel knew, nothing would ever be the same again. The object in Daniel's hands pulsed softly like the rhythm of a living heart. Its glow spread across his fingers, warm but strangely weightless. It was not made of stone or metal, yet it carried the strength of both. Veins of violet light ran through its surface, moving like rivers of energy. Daniel stared at it, stunned. What is this? The princess's eyes softened. She stepped closer, her voice low but steady. It is a core, a seed of power born from my world. We call it the heart of worlds. It contains knowledge, energy, and life itself. With it, your people can build what they have never imagined. Daniel's breath caught. The weight of her words struck him harder than the glow in his hands. Why give this to me? Her gaze lingered on him, full of memory. Because years ago, when I was broken and lost, you gave me something greater than any gift, kindness. You did not see a stranger or a threat. You saw a life worth saving. Without you, I would not have returned to my people. Without you, my kingdom might have fallen. This, she said, pointing to the glowing core, is the return for your choice. A gift from me, from my people, to yours. Daniel shook his head slowly, overwhelmed. He was just a man from a small village. How could something like this belong to him? I don't deserve this. You do, she answered firmly. Because only someone who values life more than power can be trusted with it. The words cut deep into him, stirring memories of that night. He had not thought. He had only acted, carrying her from the wreckage, hiding her in his cabin, keeping her safe. At the time, it had felt like a simple act of humanity. Now, he understood. It had changed the fate of more than one world. The princess raised her hand, and with emotion, the air shimmered. A holographic image appeared above the core, a glowing projection of cities that floated in the sky, rivers of light flowing through towers, and ships sailing between stars. The vision was breathtaking, filled with both beauty and danger. This is what your people can create if they choose wisely, she explained. Clean energy, medicine beyond imagination, bridges between worlds, but can also be twisted into war, into destruction. That is why I brought it to you first. Not to leaders, not to armies, but to you. Daniel swallowed hard. His hands trembled as the core pulsed brighter, showing new visions. Humans walking beside aliens, trading knowledge, building together. Then the image shifted. War, fire, cities in ruins. The core displayed both paths. The choice was not in the gift itself. It was in how it was used. Silence hung heavy between them. Daniel's heart raced. Could humanity be trusted? He thought of his own people, greedy merchants, suspicious villagers, and leaders who fought over power. Could they handle something so powerful? Sensing his doubt, the princess placed her hand gently over his. I know the risk, but I also know you, and I know that the future begins with a single choice, just as it did years ago when you chose to save me. Her words were like fire in his chest, burning away his fear. He looked at her, seeing not just the alien princess he once saved, but the woman she had become, a leader, carrying both hope and sorrow in her eyes. She was not giving him a weapon. She was giving him trust. The core dimmed slightly, sinking into a calmer glow, as if waiting. Daniel realized it was alive in some way, listening, responding to him. He nodded slowly. Then I will protect it, no matter the cost. The princess smiled faintly, relief washing over her features. But in her eyes, there was still a shadow, a hidden worry. She looked toward the forest, as if sensing something unseen. The gift is not safe here, she whispered. Already, there are those who seek to take it. Not all among my people agree with my choice. Some believe humanity is not ready. They will come for it, and for you. Daniel's grip tightened on the core. Fear prickled at his skin, but beneath it was resolve. He had once carried her through the night, against every danger. He would do it again, for her, for the gift, for what it meant. The night wind grew colder. The forest whispered with strange sounds. Somewhere in the darkness, eyes were watching. The bond between them had brought hope, but had also brought danger. The princess looked back at Daniel, her voice steady but urgent. This gift will test your people. It will test you. Guard it well, Daniel, for it carries not only power, but destiny. And with that, the glow of the core brightened, filling the cabin with light so pure it felt as if the stars themselves had entered the room. Daniel knew then his life was no longer his own. He held the future of two worlds in his hands. The days that followed her return were uneasy. The princess stayed close to Daniel, always guarded by her silent soldiers. Yet her presence did not remain hidden for long. Word spread quickly. Strange lights in the sky, the landing of a vessel in the forest, whispers of a woman not of this earth. The villagers grew restless. Some came to Daniel's cabin, begging for answers. Others came in anger, demanding to know if he had brought danger to their homes. Daniel tried to calm them, but their fear was stronger than his words. Humanity, he realized, was not ready to look at the princess with the same kindness he had once given her. To them, she was an outsider, a threat. The gift, the glowing core, remained hidden in his cabin. At night, it pulsed softly, filling the room with light, as if waiting for its true purpose. But the more Daniel looked at it, the more he felt the weight of the responsibility. It was not just a treasure. It was a temptation. It wasn't long before the leaders of nearby towns came to hear of it. Soldiers arrived, armed and suspicious. They demanded to see the object of power the villagers whispered about. Daniel refused. He knew what they would do. They would seize it, study it, try to twist it into a weapon. But his refusal only brought suspicion. Why protect her? One of the commanders asked, his voice sharp. She is not human. And that thing you hide, how do we know it isn't poison? How do we know it won't destroy us all? Daniel had no answer that could calm them. He only repeated the truth, that she had come in peace, that the gift was meant for all. But truth was weak against fear. The princess stood by him, her voice calm but firm. Your people must choose. Fear will close the path. Trust will open it. But trust cannot be forced. Her words fell heavy in the air, and though the soldiers lowered their weapons, their eyes were still full of doubt. As days passed, the tension grew. Daniel's once quiet cabin became the center of attention. Crowds formed, watching, whispering. Some knelt before the princess, calling her savior. Others shouted curses, demanding she leave before she cursed their land. Humanity stood divided, torn between hope and fear. Daniel felt the weight of every eye on him. He was no leader, no chosen one. Yet here he stood, holding the future of two worlds, while his own people turned against each other. Then came the warning. One night, while the forest slept, a shadow moved outside his cabin. The guards noticed first their weapons flashing. From the trees emerged cloaked figures, tall, graceful, but carrying a presence darker than the princess's. They were her own kind. Daniel's blood ran cold. The leader of the strangers stepped forward, his eyes glowing the same violet hue, but colder, sharper. We have come for the heart, he said, his voice echoing like steel. It was not yours to give. The princess stepped in front of Daniel, her hand raised. I gave it by my will and by my right as heir. Humanity deserves this chance. The figure sneered. Humanity? They are greedy, divided, unworthy. You risk everything for the memory of a single man. His eyes flicked toward Daniel, filled with disdain. A mistake that will cost us all. Daniel's fists tightened. He was just one man, but in that moment, he felt the truth of the conflict. This was no longer just about the gift. It was about trust, about whether one act of kindness years ago could outweigh the fear and pride of entire worlds. The princess turned to Daniel, her voice low but steady. This is the test I warned you of. It will not stop. You must decide, will you stand with me, or will you surrender the gift to fear? Daniel's heart pounded. The villagers, the soldiers, even her own people, all pulling in different directions. The world seemed ready to tear apart around him. But when he looked at her eyes, filled with both strength and vulnerability, his choice became clear. I saved you once, he said, his voice firm, and I will save you again. I won't let them take it. The cloaked figures hissed, their weapons glowing as they prepared to strike. The princess moved closer to Daniel, her hand brushing against his arm. Then we fight together. The forest filled with tension, the glow of alien blades, the pounding of human hearts. The conflict had begun, not just between worlds, but within humanity itself. And in the middle of it stood Daniel, a man who had once been ordinary, now forced to carry the weight of destiny. The forest was no longer silent. The hum of alien weapons filled the night, their violet light casting strange shadows across the trees. Daniel stood beside the princess, the glowing core still hidden in his cabin. The cloaked warriors, her own people, closed in, their eyes sharp with anger, their movements precise like predators. For the first time since her return, Daniel saw fear in the princess's eyes. Not fear for herself, but fear for him. She whispered quickly, "If they capture you, they will tear the memory of me from your mind. They will erase everything." Daniel clenched his fists. "Then they'll have to kill me first." The leader of the intruders stepped forward. His voice was calm, but heavy with disdain. "Human, you were never meant to hold what belongs to us. The princess acts from emotion, not wisdom. Surrender the heart, and we may let you live." Daniel's jaw tightened. Every instinct screamed at him to run. He was just one man, with no weapon, standing before beings far stronger than him. Yet he remembered that night years ago, the night he chose to save her, against all reason. He had no weapon then either, only courage. The princess moved in front of him, her armor glowing faintly. "He is not alone. He carries the same courage that once saved me. If you harm him, you dishonor the bond between our worlds." The intruder's eyes narrowed. "Bond? You risk our survival for the kindness of one weak man. If he falters, if humanity fails, the heart will bring only ruin." The words cut deep, but Daniel refused to back down. He stepped forward, standing shoulder to shoulder with the princess. "Maybe I am weak compared to you, but weakness is not the same as worthlessness. I saved her when I had nothing. I'll protect her now, even if it costs me everything." The air grew heavier, the tension sharp as a blade. The intruders raised their weapons, but the princess lifted her hand. A burst of violet light shot out, pushing them back a step. Her voice rang clear, filled with command. "If you wish to take him, then you must face me as well. And I am no longer the broken child you left behind." Her guards, silent until now, stepped forward with their own weapons, surrounding Daniel and the princess. The forest became a circle of light and steel, two sides locked in a standoff. Daniel's mind raced. He had never fought a battle like this, but his loyalty gave him strength. He grabbed an old iron staff leaning against his cabin wall. It was nothing compared to their weapons, but it was enough to show he would not stand idle. The intruder leader sneered. "You would fight us, human? You would fight against destiny itself." Daniel tightened his grip. "No, I fight for destiny, the one she believes in, and I won't betray her." At his words, something changed. The heart inside the cabin pulsed suddenly, brighter than ever, sending a wave of energy into the night. Both sides froze as the glow spilled through the cabin walls, bathing the clearing in light. The intruders staggered, shielding their eyes. The princess turned toward Daniel, her face filled with awe. "The heart responds to loyalty," she whispered. "It knows your choice." The leader hissed in fury. "Foolish child of Earth, do you not see? Even the heart will destroy you if you misuse it. This is not loyalty, it is blindness." But Daniel did not waver. He stood tall, his voice steady. "Call what you want. I call it trust." The intruders readied themselves again, but their hesitation showed. They had seen the heart awaken for a human, and that shook their certainty. The princess lifted her weapon and gave a final warning. "Leave now, or you will see what happens when you stand against both of us." For a tense moment, silence held. Then the intruder leader lowered his weapon slowly. His glare burned with anger, but also with caution. "This is not the end," he said coldly. "The council will not forgive this betrayal. When we return, we will bring an army." With that, he signaled his warriors, and they vanished into the trees like shadows swallowed by the night. Daniel exhaled, his body trembling from the weight of it all. He looked at the princess, who touched his arm gently, her eyes shimmering. You chose loyalty, even when it meant death. That choice will be remembered forever. Daniel gave a weary smile. I didn't choose loyalty. I chose you. The princess lowered her head, her expression caught between sorrow and hope. Then know this, Daniel, the real test has only just begun. The forest grew quiet again, but it was not peace. It was the silence before the storm, before a greater battle that neither of them could avoid. And in that silence, the heart glowed brighter than ever, waiting, watching, judging every choice. The forest felt heavier after the intruders left. Their threats still echoed in Daniel's mind. The council will return with an army. The air was quiet, but it was not peace. It was a silence that warned of storms yet to come. Inside the cabin, the heart of worlds glowed brighter than ever. It pulsed in rhythm with Daniel's heartbeat, as if the object had chosen him already. The princess stood near it, her hand hovering just above the light, her face caught between awe and sadness. Daniel broke the silence. They'll come back, won't they? Yes, she whispered. They will come, and they will not stop until they take the heart, or destroy it. Daniel felt the weight of her words pressing on his chest. He looked down at the glowing core. Then why give it to me? Why risk all this? She turned toward him, her violet eyes shimmering. Because you remind me of something my people have forgotten. She stepped closer, her voice softer now. When I crashed years ago, I was weak, broken, and afraid. You could have left me to die. Instead, you carried me through the night. You gave me trust without reason. That trust is stronger than any weapon. The heart responds to such bonds. That is the truth my people no longer see. Daniel frowned. So, the heart isn't just power? Her lips curved into a faint smile. No, the heart is alive, in a way. It reflects the will of those who hold it. In greedy hands, it becomes destruction. In loyal hands, it becomes hope. That is the final truth, Daniel. The gift was never only about technology. It was about whether humanity could carry trust beyond fear. Daniel stared at the glowing object, its light now softer, warmer. He finally understood. The heart was not a weapon or a treasure. It was a mirror, a test. And somehow, it had chosen him. A sound broke the moment. The villagers, who had been watching from a distance, slowly gathered around the cabin. Their faces were filled with fear, curiosity, and wonder. Some still held anger, but many were quiet now, drawn by the sight of the princess and the light of the heart. Daniel stepped outside, the princess at his side. He raised the core for all to see. This is not a weapon, he said firmly. It is a choice. It shows us who we really are. If we use it with fear, it will destroy us. But if we use it with trust, it can change everything. The villagers murmured among themselves. The soldiers who had once demanded the core now lowered their weapons, their eyes uncertain. The glow of the heart spread across the clearing, washing over them, and for the first time, Daniel saw their fear soften. The princess spoke then, her voice clear and strong. Your future will not be decided by kings, by soldiers, or by councils of the stars. It will be decided by acts of kindness, by loyalty, by the courage to trust. That is what this man has taught me, and that is what the heart reveals. The crowd fell silent. The light of the heart pulsed once more, brighter, reaching up into the sky. The clouds parted, and the stars themselves seemed to shimmer in response. For a moment, it felt as if the universe was listening. Daniel turned to the princess. So this is it. This is the destiny you spoke of. She nodded slowly, though her eyes carried both pride and sorrow. Yes, and destiny is never easy. But know this, Daniel. You have already changed more than you realize. You have changed me, and through me, you have changed my people. The council will not forget this, but neither will history. Her words struck deep. Daniel had never sought glory, never wanted power. Yet here he stood, chosen not because of strength, but because of a single act of compassion. As dawn began to break, the heart's glow faded into a steady, calm light. The villagers bowed their heads, no longer shouting, no longer afraid. Something had shifted. The princess placed her hand gently on Daniel's shoulder. You will not face what comes next alone. I will stand with you. Always. Daniel smiled faintly, exhaustion in his eyes, but resolve in his heart. Then whatever storm is coming, we'll face it together. Above them, the sky glowed with morning light, brighter and warmer than Daniel had seen in years. The forest was alive again, not with fear, but with hope. And so the story of a single human, who once chose kindness on a quiet night, became the bridge between worlds. The final revelation was clear. The greatest gift was not the heart itself, but the bond of trust that could outshine even the stars.